You know, I used to think that Black Lives Matter, the movement, was fairly effective. But the more I think about it, the more I think that it must be becoming really effective because the right, i.e. Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity crew, these guys are absolutely going out of their way to attack it. Now, Mr. O'Reilly is going to have a somewhat civilized, I guess, debate with the head of, I believe, the NAACP. And he's not going to get as crazy as he does. He is at least a bit more respectful of this gentleman. But he still tries to get in there and overtalk him. And I'm not even going to have to comment all that much regarding this because the head of the NAACP basically is going to cut him down. Now again, Mr. O'Reilly is going to use the imagery of some young kids climbing on a truck in Oakland, and again they were kids, and some paint and a window being broken, I guess at a police station. And if that's all he's got to hang his hat on as far as the violence of the Black Lives Matter group, and he's got a severe loss.
Problem segment tonight, as we told you in the talking points memo, at exactly the same time there were peaceful demonstrations in Dallas last night, there was a rowdy protest led by Black Lives Matter in Oakland, California.
Shattered glass this morning reflects the shattered nerves in Oakland today. This was the scene just hours ago on the 880 freeway. About 1,000 protesters stopping traffic for hours. It all started with a peaceful rally in downtown Oakland. Thousands of protesters expressed outrage and concern in the community. Some vandalizing stores, the Foot Locker and Smart and Final.
Question this evening is the group Black Lives Matter inciting racial tension. Joining us now from Washington, Hilary Shelton, Director of the NAACP in Washington, D.C. So, you know what I think? I think that if African Americans really want to bring the country together and have good racial relations, they have to distance themselves from Black Lives Matter. Am I wrong?
No, I disagree with you. But let me first offer our thoughts, our prayers, and our condolences to the families of those who lost their lives in Dallas. It was an awful tragedy. It should not have happened. We're all very saddened by it. We have to get to the bottom of that issue as well. The reason I disagree with you is I believe in my conversations with leaders of Black Lives Matter, and even my participation in a demonstration in which we marched from the Capitol building here in Washington, D.C. to the front of the White House in a very peaceful demonstration with a number of members of Congress. In much the same way those marched in Dallas, Texas, we saw things very differently. We have to take on those issues in a very significant way. Let us not forget two things, Bill. Number one is that those marches were for good reasons. Indeed, if we look at the disparities in the attacks of African Americans and the killings of African Americans by police officers, even unarmed African Americans, the numbers and the data is important as well. I heard you share a number of very helpful anecdotes, and anecdotes help make the story human. But the breadth and depth of the problem are very well rooted in data. And if we look at the data, we see that twice as many African Americans and unarmed African Americans are shot by police officers than white Americans in our society. That raises a problem. When we look at the images of those videos that we saw, and we see that an African American, though each of them had a gun, neither of them were reaching for the gun, and in both cases, those guns were quite legal. But I think we're all outraged to see the video on the wall and see what we saw on our television screens.
Now, here it is. If you look at the amount of crime proportionally committed by African Americans, is far higher than whites.
That's not true.
Than Hispanics. So you're going to have, just based upon, you want stats, these are stats. You're going to have more confrontation between law enforcement and African Americans because they are committing more crimes. But I don't know. I don't want to talk about that tonight. I want to get back.
Because you'll need data when we talk about it. I'd love to come back and talk about it.
Well, we have the data, and we've given it many times. Well, we'll do that. We'll do that. But let's get back to trying to bring the country together. I will submit to you tonight, and there are millions of people watching us right now, that there are very few white Americans who respect Black Lives Matter just because of what they did last night in Oakland, just because of what they're doing right now in front of the White House. There's not one sign up there saying you know, the Dallas police officers, that shouldn't happen. We're protesting that too. And so white Americans despise this crew.
That is such bullshit. And that's the thing about Fox. They love to embellish shit. He's acting like white America in its entirety despises or hates Black Lives Matter. If that's in fact the case, then why are so many white people marching right along with them? Please, Jesus.
And if black Americans don't understand that, we're just going to grow further apart.
Well, first I think you have to look at what's in front of you. If you look at the film clippage that you've even shown, what you see is that those Black Lives Matter marches are extremely well integrated. They're well integrated not only with African Americans and Latinos, they're plenty of white Americans.
Shelton, you know who's driving the violence there. You know who it is.
Look at the video footage.
Okay, now Bill, all of a sudden he just changed the parameters. He just went from white America despises Black Lives Matter when it was countered with the actual video evidence that you could see a tremendous number of white people there. Now he's saying, oh, but you know who's driving the violence. So he just changed the narrative.
It's not the case. When I was at the White House, there was not one incident of violence going on. People were there because they were equally outraged. This is a human American issue.
The Dallas march was peaceful. Okay, it wasn't a Black Lives Matter march.
Was peaceful as well.
Yes, it was the Black Lives Matter march. I live in Dallas. Guess what? I was watching all channels, and they during that period of time they were streaming the portions of it live, and it was the Black Lives Matter people that were primarily the organizers of that. There were other groups that were integrated in the march, but the primary group there were the Black Lives Matter people. Wrong again, Bill.
Sure, it was a local. No. It was a local group. In Dallas, it was a local group.
You should watch your competitor from time to time. CNN had the march organizers on. They were members of Black Lives Matter.
They had their own.
Yeah, and so did MSNBC during the day. They had the organizers, one of which was the brother of one of the people that the Dallas PD called a suspect in the shooting. Come to find out that he wasn't, and they let the guy go 30 minutes after he surrendered to the police department. But obviously, Bill, you haven't done a story on that guy, even though that guy and his brother at approximately 6 o'clock in the morning when they were released, did a show on Dallas Fox local affiliate. But of course, you don't have that information.
As well.
They had their own group under their own banner. I don't care what my competition is reporting. I'm telling you what the facts and the police are reporting.
No, you're telling us what you want us to hear. Those were not the facts. I just gave you the facts. It was the Black Lives Matter organizers who were primarily responsible for the march in Dallas.
It was a peaceful demonstration. You go to Oakland, it isn't a peaceful demonstration because it's Black Lives Matter. And come on, pigs in a blanket, kill them.
But Bill, let's also talk about some solutions. And quite frankly, the reason that the marches were going on in all three places is because we really do have a problem with the policy,
and that's fine.
The training, and
everybody understands that. Everybody understands that.
Well, they don't, because we have not seen one piece of new legislation being passed by the Congress. There are several bills that are now pending in the House and Senate that address the issue of racial profiling and the issue of the misuse of force by police officers, as well as body cams. As you realize, in the case of Baton Rouge, both police officers had body cams, but guess what? Neither body cam was on.
Oh, and by the way, the police officer that killed the man in Minnesota, he didn't even have a body camera.
That raises major concerns as well. The other side of this issue that we must talk about is the issue of guns. When you talk about what happened in Dallas, one of the reasons there was so much confusion about long guns being used is because there were about almost 10 citizens they were able to legally carry long guns on their back, and as police came in, what they didn't realize, of course, is the shooter, unlike so many of the other mass murders that have happened in our society, was carrying an AR-15
That's right.
military style.
I think that debate should be held about what guns should be accessible to the public. I want to see that debate, but it's not going to solve the problem. As
Well,
Mayor
I disagree
Giuliani
with
said,
you.
it's
The
not.
debate won't solve the problem.
But the bigger problem in America right now is a growing racial divide. And Black Lives Matter is making it worse. I gotta go.
Black Lives Matter is not making it worse. It's guys like you that are making it worse when you're pandering to the right, these white supremacist guys that love listening to you. You're full of shit, Bill, and you lost another one.
I disagree.
Well,
I disagree.
and that's why we have you on.
Talk about it again.
And that's why we have you
I look
on.
forward to coming back.
All right.